Tired of winning the tailgate, but losing the games? We can't help that. But we can tell you what the hell is up with each team and what's going on across sunny San Marcos. Texas State fans, get on your feet. You're listening to Squarin Around with Jakob Rodriguez and Andrew Zimmel.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Squarin Around. I'm Jakob Rodriguez. That's the Texas State Sports Press. This week, we're joined by the San Marcos Daily Record sports editor, Colton McWilliams. This time, live. Air quotes.
Run to the
Big
show.
Air quotes. In our studio. Brand new setup. You look great. Thanks for joining
Well, like I
us.
said, let's just say I'm borrowing one of the office spaces at the Daily Record. So, but like I said, I'm kind of in the middle of like a emergency move. So hopefully I can get something settled down and we have like an official like office space besides like borrowing somebody else's. So
Nice.
They kicked you out of the end zone complex, huh? They said you can't live here anymore.
So does that
Yeah.
happen before the spring game, or are you navigating that transition through the spring, you know?
yeah, it's basically just trying to get everything settled down before spring game and all that stuff. But yeah, I guess they caught me sleeping at the softball VIP suites.
That's pretty good. Before we get started, I have a couple procedural things I want to knock out. Last week was a big week for us because the Republic of Football podcast, this is now an affiliate of the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcasting network. That was super cool to announce last week. That's why we did a mailbag episode, because we literally had to mail it in after we had to come up with another episode. We have a few episodes, actually. I pitched Ish when we signed our deal that, you know, these are the few that we're going to kind of do in a row. I did explain it oddly on Twitter because it definitely is only one a week, but it's just different because we're going to host it and they're going to host it. We're going to host it and they're going to host it. So like this week, this is our week. Next week, it's going to be Dave Campbell. And spoiler, we do have some surprises. Salt Bae sprinkled in for next week already. We have some stuff lined up. I don't want to give it all away, but more things to come. We already actually announced one on Twitter. It's we're gonna interview Brian London at some point next year or next week.
Jacob could have made it so much simpler by just being like Republic of Football and the Squaring Around podcast. If your parents ever divorced and you got to go one weekend with another weekend,
But
that's
the thing is,
essentially what
it's
you're
not a
doing here.
divorce. We've gotten
It's not a
married.
divorce. No,
Yeah.
no. It's like you're really, really, really friends with your mom's boyfriend.
It's
That's
like
good.
Dave Campbell's had a really nice house that they wanted us to move in, and we were like, "Well, we already got our spot downtown. It's okay. We don't need to do that." And they were like, "Come on, if you
They
want
gave
to
us
be
some
with
good
us, you
It's
gotta."
like having the best friend but you honestly like almost live at their house. So basically you stay one weekend at your house and then you move over to your best friend's house. But
No,
like your
it's a
best friend's
little-
family, like already accepts you as one of your own. That's how I view it.
That happened to me and Jacob, but people had scandalous rumors, so I had to do something else.
Well, the second part of that whole announcement, right, is where people immediately were like, "Well, where can we find you guys' episodes?" And I was like, "That's a great point," because at the time they had only had like a Spotify link and an Apple link, which is great. Just how you find their feed. You know, sometimes you can find an RSS feed. That's kind of how ours is. You just click on our one deal and you can find all of our stuff. We even have a main site account. We have a YouTube that's popping. Thanks for all our viewers. But I added a ROF football button this week because they have a main site that's showing off us, Gambling Gauchos, the TCU podcast they announced this week. Everything that's going on Dave Campbell's Football World is on there, including both of their stream links. So that's Apple and Spotify. So you just click on our button and it takes you right there. So yeah, that was a thing I needed to add. And I also added our new thing, Hotline Square. I know, in that Hotline Square. So now you can add voice recordings into this. This one's by my best friend, Tristan Giese. I'm just going to play it out loud.
I don't appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak on your podcast, knowing full well I have the anonymity to blatantly criticize and mock Andrew Zimmel. Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
I can't play the rest of that because of licensing issues, but you get the point. Pretty fun.
If you got things to say, you can say them, and we can put a voice to faceless Twitter account.
So now, obviously, we have the Squarin Pod Twitter at Squarin Pod. I keep forgetting to say that because, you know, you're supposed to say those things. You're supposed to, in advertising, you just keep repeating, you know, especially numbers, advertisements, all those things. I have yet to do that. I'm not really good at that. I'm a news guy. But anyway,
And he's barely good at that.
at Squarin Pod on Twitter. Yeah, honestly, I'm really just lucky, to be honest. That's how my career could be summed up is luck, spite, and what is he? Oh, hesitation has saved me in so many of my careers. I'm a live TV producer. So if you see something going on, are you gonna take that shit live? That's a big responsibility. So hesitation has saved me a lot. Moving down. I have some more open format episodes coming in the near future. Dumb cat is in the way. But so that means even our fans could be part of this podcast, ? In the future. Hit us in the comments. Is that something y'all want? Is that something I need to prioritize further? But we have some other stuff going on. We got a few podcast episode segment ideas where we bring in people to talk about really just rebranding Square Talks, because Square Talks should be one thing. And then if we talk to certain people that fit in certain categories, we're going to lump them into different sort of episodes and kind of keep a different vibe with some of those shows, keeping them light when we're talking to alumni, keeping it different when we're talking to, our fan base on Square and different stuff related to ROF, but also not really because of that ROF relationship. Now we get to kind of open up and kind of do our own thing. And then every other week we go back to them and talk football and some other stuff going on. Right now, the Green Room, the UNT podcast, they're only talking about basketball, obviously, because of the NIT run that UNT's on. So it's kind of cool the way things like transition and stuff over there. It's like, well, this is the most important thing at Texas State, so we got to talk about that on ROF. And then our deal kind of changes too over here. Because if I'm talking about baseball being amazing, I got to talk about softball and all these other things.
You're talking about baseball being amazing, you're lying.
Hey, we'll get to that. The next thing I want to talk about is the University Star just announced their new editor-in-chief and managing editor, actually, too. When I was the editor-in-chief, I took an entire week. It was like when the Pope gets announced and you see the white smoke. People didn't know what I was going to do for a solid week. And I just stayed in my corner listening to rap with purple lights on in my office that I built. Everybody was like, whoa, what's Jakob doing? How's he going to take this Star? Where's it going? But shout out to my boy Carson Weaver, the current sports editor, and Nikayla. She's the managing editor. So awesome. She's the current news editor. So a lot of cool experience going on. I can't wait to see what they do. They're really cool people. I've gotten to meet them a couple times. And I'm a University Star board advisor. So boom, I'll be there.
Well, Colton and I are alums. So Colton, what is your thoughts? You see Carson all the time.
I think Carson's going to do a great job. Like, I think I met him once, but like my first meeting with him, like I liked him. Like, he does a pretty good job over there at the sports section. Something that we helped build up. Like when, like the five of us, like us three, and then Claire and Cade, doing all their great stuff. So I'm glad like someone's like, I guess, picking up the torch that we built and kind of continuing it.
Yeah. It was really surreal. I went back to talk to one of my professors, Gilbert Martinez, and his whole study abroad class. They're going to Japan. That's where I studied abroad. If you study abroad, you have to mention it like 18 times. But it was really surreal to be back on campus. I hadn't been back on campus since like early spring 2020. And when I walked into Old Main, it was like I started having flashbacks. I was like, oh my God. I heard Zimmel's voice suddenly. And I was like, the only thing that's going to take this for me to snap right now is for me to see the Dean of Fine Arts and Communication, John Fleming, and for him to say something about the Cowboys to me, because I am tripping out right now. I literally had to walk around campus after I was done with that meeting just to like soak it all in. Had a true alumni moment. Yeah, scary.
Don't we still need to find like secret room in Old Main that I think our old editor-in-chief Carrington like posted a picture of or something?
What do you mean? The purple room or?
No, like there's a secret building in Old Main, like it's in the attic space. There's like a secret room up there that I've yet to find like the entrance to, because I don't know who posted it, because I thought it was like Carrington or something, but he posted a video of like the secret like room in Old Main that's like up in the attic. And it's almost like the secret like society meeting room, and I'm like determined to find this space.
Well, I'm going to let you in on a secret. I don't think that was something you need to be asking questions about. If there's a secret society that Carrington's part of, I don't need to deal with that. He can have that one.
Also, a former editor of the Star. What a beast! First black editor of the Star. He made history. Yeah. Shout out to those two. Shout out Carrington, and shout out Mike Craven, who got engaged. Now, big question I was posing to everybody on the podcast: do we get invited to Craven's bachelor party? Probably not. But here's the case: we're coworkers now. I went to Texas State. We know how to party. How's it going, Craven? Congratulations to you and yours.
Mazel tov.
So, I want to dial this back into what this is, a sports podcast, not just me talking about things for 15 minutes straight. Colton has been at some of the springtime stuff going on. He was at the first practices that he was allowed at, getting some of that first availability out of GJ Kinney and his staff there. So Colton, I want to just talk about first impressions, and maybe we'll talk just a little bit about pro day and junior day. But what are your kind of like first impressions of the spring? Everybody was talking about leading up to this. Oh wow, it's good. Different ball game, like so many other things are going on too across the athletics department that people were immediately like, this has to be so much different. What are your immediate impressions of the team so far?
I think the first thing that kind of struck me, I guess there's just like a different energy with this team. It's almost like, I would say Coach Kinney's kind of brought in some juice to this team. And you could tell like there's just a different energy. Like I think we were talking to Levi Bell, and he was because his younger brother Ben's still on the team, and he was talking to, I guess, me and Kev after pro day, and he was saying like, yeah, the energy is like different from what like the conversations he had with his brother. And I don't know if it's just like the malaise of like what Spavital and his staff was like, as it was basically kind of slowly winding down, and like you could tell like the end was over. I think just seeing this new energy, it gets like just watching it, you can tell like the players are like excited, like they want almost like they're buying into what Kenny's like selling already. And I think that's a very good start to see, especially during this first week. And you can also like tell that. You could tell like during the off-season workouts, I think especially when you have like the old guard that was still here from the Spavital era, and now you having Kenny bringing all these new transfers and hearing the stories about how they all bonded during off-season workouts. I think that's to me, I see that as a positive sign moving forward, because you've still got maybe some of the players are still loyal to Spav, and these new players, they're loyal to Coach Kenny, but there's already see them kind of gelling together. Like I would say, it's probably like a much more healthier locker room environment compared to last year, as we all know. Like we heard all the stories, but what was
no, we don't.
on.
Tell me these stories, Colton. What stories?
Like I said, from what I just kind of talking around it, you could tell like from. Like keeping my sources like anonymous and all that stuff. I think there was like a really fractured locker room, because you were either a Spav guy or you weren't a Spav guy. And I think there's a feeling of like, we're all part of one team. We're all going to like get through this part. But yeah, it feels like the locker room's like much more calm now than what it was last year.
I think too, something that's difficult for any coach right now is like navigating what the transfer portal is, because you get a 4-star or 5-star from, I don't know, Alabama or whatever. Everybody immediately, the guy is like, well, that guy got his stars over there. What do you mean? Like, he's not really with this team. He's not what we're about. The benefit of what GJ is doing right now is everybody is nothing. It's like, what is Texas State? What are we doing forward? Are we going to finish horrible again in the Sun Belt? It's like, so navigating all that, I mean, you kind of can do whatever you want,
There's a lot you just said, Colton.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna start here. I better freaking hope everybody's on the same page, and I better freaking hope that everybody likes Kenny. We've only got a week of this. Like, yeah. So if you were to come in here and tell me like, it's a mutiny already, I'd be like, what the fuck is going on? But so to say that like everything is going good, I just kind of assume everything would be going good. Everybody is pulling in the same direction. I damn hope so. He picked all these guys. Like everybody who didn't want to be here could have transferred out. It's so easy to move now. So if you're unhappy at Texas State, there's one person to blame. That's you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're telling me a lot of stuff that I think I kind of already would have guessed. You know what I mean? Like there's a good energy. if there was bad energy, we'd get a seance. You know what I mean? Like it's a new coach. So like you've seen a week of these spring practices. You saw 4 years of Spav. Is there a difference? Do you like just in the first week? Can you tell there's a difference? Do they blocking different? Are they lifting weights different? Because I always kind of assumed it's the same thing.
Well, I think their off-season definitely the off-season program that I've been seeing, like just I think there's a sense of like, oh, like not letting the little things, like the little mistakes slide anymore. Because that was something that I heard that like last year's team, like they would just get away with like the little mistakes. Like it didn't matter. Like, and you know how in football, like even the littlest mistakes lead to something bad. So seeing, like hearing the player, like from what I've heard, hearing the players talk about like, yeah, that's not allowed anymore. Like we're here to like build something here, that there's no sense of, what am I trying to say? Like basically they're trying
there's no dicking around.
Yeah, no, there's no dicking around. Yeah, that's basically how you can sum it up. Like it's like, guys, like this program has been terrible. Like, and we need to elevate this like now. Like this is no longer acceptable no more.
Didn't we have two other coaches before this? What the hell is going on over there? Why? What do you mean dicking around was allowed? Like, I was the editor-in-chief for 1 year. We flipped the entire thing. We did a bunch of new things. Every other editor-in-chief before me has done the same thing. Flipped a bunch of things, done things differently. How come a football coach is getting paid $800,000 a year? Couldn't do
pocket watching. We're pocket watching. I mean, look, I understand what you're saying, Colton. You've been around him now. I love Spavital. I thought he was a really good guy to have a beer with. I would have loved to hang out with him. I still would. If he ever hits me up and says, you want to hang out on a Sunday to watch football, I'm hanging out with him on a Sunday to watch football. Kenny doesn't give me those same vibes. Doesn't seem like the guy that I want to hang out with. He seems like the type of guy that's going to be X's and O's. He's going to pull out the chalkboard when I'm trying to watch Sunday Ticket. Like, am I wrong there?
No, you're completely right. Like that's the main difference with Spavital. Like you could tell, like Spavital is definitely a Dana Holgerson disciple. Like he's the exact same personality, exact same energy. DJ Kenny, like if you like in a press conference, if you talked about X's and O's, he can go maybe like 30 minutes about talk about X's and O's. Like that's, and I think that's what Texas State needs. They just need a football coach. And also like I know the whole coach's kid and all that stuff, but like Kenny's someone who's like played at the Division I level, not just like, be a backup. No, he was a starter at Tulsa and he was really good over there at Tulsa. I think he still holds like a lot of the passing records. And I think it's also like that ability, like being a Division I starter. I think it helps for those players to relate more to him than probably what Spav was, if that makes sense, because that's the one thing I noticed about Kenny was like, Kenny's probably more a personal coach with those players. Like, just like a lot of those players will be like, yeah, like if something's wrong, like Coach Kenny's probably the first person that's going to text me saying like, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? And all of that stuff. I think just that connectability with all those players, I think that's going to make much more of a difference. Like being able, just compared to Spav, I think Spav's like, hey, you would kind of would say Spav was kind of more of your friend than the coach. I think GJ Kenny's more of a coach, but he's also has that personal level to kind of make you go that extra mile, to make you lift that extra weight. I think that's probably going to be the main difference going forward.
Who's impressed you so far through a week?
For everybody else, though. What the hell is that? Like, what do you mean? We're just allowing mediocrity to exist? I'm a very competitive person. I bring out the best and sometimes the worst in people. When I'm just like, we gotta go. Like, that's what drives me in my career, in my life, and like everything. I want to be the best at everything. And so, like, to hear that we've just been like, finish 6-6.
But you saw that. There's no way that you didn't, when you watched on Saturday, think like, oh yeah, there's a real, like, to say that Spavital wasn't competitive, I think would be a lie. I think that guy's competitive. You look at the teams that we put on the field there, and I don't know. I think if you're going to give a lion's share, you're going to give a lion's share to him. There's a lot of other stuff. There's other factors in here. Colton, who's impressed you through 1 week of spring training?
I would probably start on the offensive line. It's Nash Jones, one of the transfers from UIW that I'm like, that dude's a hoss.
Squat's 550. I'm trying to get that up a little bit. Clean is 365. Hoping to get to 405 by the end of the summer. And bench, I'm upset about the bench. I failed at 425 this past 2 weeks ago, so hopefully we can get that again.
It's not bad. What's your regiment like? Do you just do you eat a lot of food too as well? Like what does it take to get you that strong and this big?
The same thing that Coach Hughes says every time: eat, sleep, hydrate. I just follow his stuff to a T. Whatever he tells me to do, I do. And so 3 meals a day, two snacks. I get a nap in. Try to get 8 to 8 hours of sleep every night, and just trying to be consistent as I possibly can every single day.
I think him and a lot of those I think it's just the UIW transfers that have kind of like really impressed me, because it's like they know what the expectation, like not only Kenny sets, but also the rest of the UIW staff, Coach Huth, the strength and conditioning coach. And I think their ability, and that's what Coach Kenny said, like one of the leaders that emerged was Nash Jones. Like he was the one that, being that voice and that leader for the locker room. I think that's what impressed me the most, is like having a newcomer come in and being like setting the expectation, knowing what the expectation was at UIW, seeing what's here at Texas State and seeing like we can do better. I think that's what impressed me the most, was seeing Nash Jones like immediately take control of the situation. And I think he's going to be like a major piece on that offensive line.
He's a super
talking to Jakob
too in the gym, and part of he was one of those first people that we got to talk to. Not we, because we weren't there, but Colton and Kev and the other media people, guys in Austin and stuff, KTSW, all got to speak to Torrey Spears and Nash Jones. Thing that impressed me about Nash Jones is he wants to change the entire perspective of Texas State football. He wants people to fear the team.
Domination, just straight up. I loved how the season went last year over there at UIW, and I feel like this year, as a group, we're just 10 times stronger, 10 times better. We know the plays, we know what we have to do, and I want to win a lot of football games here. I know what the record was last year, and I want to change the perspective of what people think when they think of Texas State. I want them to fear
us. So he's got that dog mentality. Zimmel.
I was going to say, Jakob and I have mentioned the UIW staff and how a Control-C, Control-V might work, but also I'm a little hesitant because the way the JMU has competed and looked, but they were a team that was winning a national championship just a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? So It made sense for them to come to the Sun Belt and make some noise. Whereas this, to me, feels like the Diet Coke version of that. You know what I mean? It's not the same great Coke taste. Having a coaching staff and having some players, that makes sense. But can you say right now that you think that Texas State's going to have the success because the UIW players and coaches? Would that UIW team last year win the West in the Sun Belt?
I would say they would have a difficult time, because if you look at the defenses, that's what concern that would concern me the most about that UIW teams. How would they stack up against those defenses? Because we're not just talking about high end Sun Belt. No, we're talking about high end in the country defense. I think that would have been my most concern. But I don't think I'm looking at it as their success at UIW. We're talking about a coaching staff that basically built a UIW program that was from nothing.
Not this group. This coaching staff inherited a pretty damn good.
No. This is so I know everyone thinks Kenny came in with after Morris, but a lot of those coaches were a part of that. When Eric Morris first joined the program, a lot of those coaches were a part of Morris's first year staff. So they were there at the beginning when Morris was was basically getting that UIW machine rolling. They were there and they saw the process. But I guess that's what I'm trying to say. This isn't I'm not talking about the 22 team. I'm talking about the 2018 team. I guess the first UIW team that won the Southland, made their first playoff appearance. They helped set the foundation to what that 22 team is now. And I think that's what's going to be important, because you're basically starting from scratch at Texas State. You're looking
again. How many times can you start from scratch? You know what I mean? This is the third time in 10 years we're starting from scratch, Colton. You know what I mean? You understand that frustrates me.
No, and it is frustrating because like, to be honest, like, if you look at where Texas State is, like, they should be starting from scratch, like, on the third try. But, like, there's also, like, when you also look at it, like, how many people, like, realize, like, know that Texas State had a 7-win season? I mean, we're getting to a current generation of, like, players and students that think, like, Texas State's basically a bottom tier program. And, like, you have to start somewhere. And when you saw, like, the other two, like, coaches, like, they flat out failed. And you can attribute that to, like, not the university, like, not giving them the support they need. But now you've got Don coming in, and President Damp is, like, at least giving some energy to this program. And I know it sucks, and, like, well, they got to start somewhere because, this is the third time they're having to start somewhere. But, like, there's nothing to prove, like, what they've done, like, since Fran left. Like, I mean, there's got to be a jump off point. And I know it sucks saying, like, well, this is the third time. I was like, well, yeah, because there's nothing to show, if that makes sense.
That honestly, it's March 29th. This is when I was supposed to be the highest on, like, the team and stuff. That actually is the most depressing shit I've heard, like, in a long time. Because I can't argue with you. You're kind of right, but at the same time, I like to think that there's something there. Like, I like to think that there's some sort of, like, bone structure to this program. But I think you might be right. Now, okay, but back to what I was saying. UIW coaching staff, a skeleton crew from the team that did really well last year in the FCS. Is that enough? Is that enough that right now you can be like, oh, yeah, no, that's going to be a 6-win team?
I think right now it's just too early to tell because, like, we're literally in the first week of spring. Like, as much as we like spring practice and all that stuff, like, I don't think it's a good judge of, like, telling what this team is because you're literally playing against each other. I don't think that's the one thing I've learned because, like, you can look awesome in spring practice, but when you, like, strap up your helmet against someone of a different color, like, it's not going to be the same.
So let me ask you then, when do you get to judge? Do you judge after week 1? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to get my bets in before August 27th.
I would, if I want to get a good judge, I would kind of, like, look at the Baylor game because I wouldn't, like, say, like, oh, if they lose to Baylor, like, oh, season's over and all that stuff. I think the game I want to see is when they go over to the Alamo Dome against UTSA. I think that might be your best bet to see, like, what is this team going to look like? Because not only is this going to be, like, you're talking about a rivalry game where a team that they've never beaten, and the juice that UTSA has built up. And I think that's going to be a best, like, judge to see, like, where this team is going to go moving forward. Because when it comes to rivalry, to me, when rivalry games come, like, even though, like, UTSA is obviously, like, has been moving up, to me, like, in a rivalry game, you throw everything out the window because if you look at particularly the last 3 meetings, like, there was only, like, one bad game.
Is it a rivalry if one team kicks the other team's ass, like, all the time?
I'm gonna push back on that too. Those UTSA games have been ugly.
I always consider the Texas State UTSA game a rivalry game. Like, yes, the football series is only 3 games, but considering, like, they started playing in 1990 and now we're, like, almost 30 years in, like, how is it not like a rivalry? Like, the football stuff, like, is just another aspect you tack on to the rivalry.
That's fine, and I agree with you. I agree with you there. But to say, like, throw out the records, I mean, like, I agree. I understand where you're coming from. If there was, like, 50 of these, but there's 3, and they all been really one-sided, super duper one-sided. That's where I'm coming from.
Yes, 2009, by the way, and then their first season, I guess, their first practice was 2010, UTSA.
And if we actually look at all 3 games, the only game you can really take out, I guess it was a 2017 team where, like, UTSA, like, boat raced Texas State and San Marcos. But when you look at the other 2 games, like, they were all 1-possession games. No, the other 3 meetings, all 1-possession games. So it's not like UTSA has been consistently beating us. You can honestly, like, even the 2020, you're literally 1 extra point away from, like, beating UTSA and seeing but we all know, like, how all that.
You're fair. That's a very fair point. Let's talk about Pro Day. You ready to move on, Jacob? You want to talk pro day?
Well, I have something else to add to this too that's not even a part of this. Also, I just pulled up the series for the four games that we've had against UTSA. Lost all 4 of them, by the way. It's not been fun. This last one, 51-48. That was in 2020. So it hasn't been fun. It's been a one-sided situation since 2012. That's the first game, 11-24, 2012 in San Antonio. And we've done a home and home basically since then. That one in 2020 was a 2 overtime loss, though, so you got to give them credit for that. It was a very competitive game. And if you're basing the rivalry on that very last game and everything that's kind of led up to this and the whole GJ Kinney, Jeff Traylor moment that they're going to have, player versus coach, is Yoda and Luke going to face off, or Obi-Wan, I guess, and Anakin really is I have the high ground. Is that moment going to happen? But I also... everybody's been talking about how different this team is, right? Because of the springtime stuff, because of the changes, because of Don, because of GJ, because of the athletics department as a whole, because of Chris Coots, our boy, the SID. I
give him 1%. He gets 1% of that pie when it comes to difference makers.
Chris,
1%.
I'll give him 5. Dude, he's been lights out. He's taken
that guy's not winning me a game.
Communications department for the athletics department has never been better. Never.
He's not winning me a game, though. You mentioned a bunch of guys who have money and who have actual impact, and then you mentioned SID, which very thankful for his work.
Hey,
but he's not suiting up on Saturday.
No, but I am, and I need him to show up on Saturday. So that's why I need Chris to be up there. I'm just saying, he's a great dude. If you don't know.
No, I agree. But let's pump the brakes. When we're going through our come on.
Hey, unsung heroes. I'm here for them.
Okay,
Voice
that's
of the
fair.
voiceless. What's that journalist trope? I also, as I've mentioned, I've been super nostalgic recently about my time at the university, my time at the University Star specifically. And so I went back 3 editors now to talk to my homegirl, Denise Cervantes. It was her birthday this week. That was kind of the impetus for it. And I was like, hey, did you ever feel like the football team, athletics as a whole, needed something like administrative support, more money, whatever, to be more successful? And she was like, no. What do you mean? They always got a bunch of money. They always got all the attention on campus. Nothing really, they didn't need anything to happen. She doesn't know a ton about sports or football, so whatever, So moving it down the line, talk to my boy Carrington, as we just mentioned earlier in this thing. I was like, hey, did you ever think in your time as the editor, in your time at the Star, that football, athletics as a whole, needed more support from up the hill, JCK, or money, or anything else to be successful? They're like, what do you mean? They're the most paid team in the world. They've gotten a bunch of stuff going on, Moving down the line, talk to my boy, Jaden Edison. He took over right after me. He said, he was kind of there too for that Kelly Damphus transition, COVID year, a bunch of stuff that Jaden had to navigate. And he was like, yeah, I mean, Kelly's obviously a difference maker, but I think that's kind of a cop-out. To say that a football team needs super administrative support, even when they're obviously the one that's getting all the attention, all the money, all the accolades, even though they don't deserve it,
Time out. Jacob, let me ask you, as editor-in-chief, because editor-in-chief, you get to sign off on the articles that run, right?
Mm-hmm. And ads.
All right. Colton, I want to take you back to 2017 where we start this whole thing.
All right.
Texas State went, I think, 2-10 that year.
Yep.
And the University Star had an opinion column that said that they should tar over the field to make more parking lot spots. Okay? So let's just full disclosure here. When we're talking about this editor-in-chief of this, they don't know shit. Okay? So I don't want to hear that.
On the opinion side, I'm just saying
fine.
From experience, you don't care what those kids write about. Let them run free.
Yeah. I don't care.
Those people do not represent what I'm talking about or the board.
That's fine.
Anything like that.
That's fine.
You should let the opinion section run as loud as you can.
That was in print. You can go back and read it. And so let me just say that the people who read that were like, this is a solid, put that thing in print. We're good there. No rewrites or anything. I'm sorry. Let's put those people let's put that in a box on the side. All right.
What are you gonna do? Just not agree with people. I mean, like,
to tar over the field, to cut
it's
the
not my opinion,
program,
but I gotta let a kid run it.
to cut the. All right,
because
whatever.
then I'm sparking conversation. I could get a write-in from Andrew Zimmel.
You're
afraid of some kid that probably doesn't know what they're talking about, doesn't understand.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. They don't know what they're talking about. So I just want to put that. I just want to put that like out there too. That this is from the people who brought you Cars 2 comes tar over the football field to add parking spots. So I'm just like we're fine. I just want a full disclosure here.
Yeah.
That's who you're asking. Like, do you think that they deserve more administrative support?
And that's why it was so important that we like shore up like the editorial support around the sports coverage when I was the editor, because I was like, well, if we want to talk about this, the first thing that needs to change is we need to cover the teams. What do you mean? We can't have a voice at the table if we're not even at the press conference. So that was the first thing we changed, and I think we're better off for it long term.
Yeah, 100,000% yes. 1,000,000,000% yes. Colton, tar over the field? Yes or no? No?
That's just such a weird article to write. Like, I kind of agree. Just like that's what you want to.
These are the people who were asking for the sports opinion. This is the people who were like, do they need more administrative support?
Well, and that's why the sports section is its own thing, the news section is its own thing, and the opinion section is its own thing. Because those guys can believe whatever they want, as long as we're going to the games and covering them. The mission of the Star is the same.
100%, 1,000%. But
I also want to push back on Colton's kind of like, well, Texas State's been, there's a lot to prove, kind of. Not recently, maybe in the Bailiff years and maybe in the years before that. My parents both went to Southwest, and will tell you the team sucked then too. Like, so there's a lot to prove, I think, for the athletics administration as a whole. If we want to get back to those glory years where we're winning in the Valley, 2 Division II titles. And we're winning with Bailiff. We're beating Houston that one time for the first FBS win. So, yeah, lots to prove. Maybe we'll try if we will win. Now, let's talk about Pro Day. Was it fun? Was it cool? And do you think the end zone complex renovations will be a thing that adds to this entire experience, Colton?
I think but one thing that sucked, like they started at 7 a.m. When
That's why I wasn't there.
That, I was like, "What the hell?"
On a Friday, or what was it, Thursday?
No, it was a Wednesday. Yeah, it was a Wednesday because we had to do
midweek. Got to get up early on a midweek.
No,
Jesus,
I wouldn't have complained, but I just literally got done covering a high school baseball game, and I got done at like 11 at 9, and I was like, "Oh, guys, come on!"
Oh, poor Colton. Poor Colton. He had to get up early to go to watch football guys lift weights. Okay.
But also, I live like 40 minutes. I used to live 40 minutes out, so I had to wake up at 5 in the morning.
That's fair.
And I was just
fair. But you're not going to get sympathy from Jakob, who's doing morning TV. That's all I'm going to say. I sympathize with you. Jacob's just being a jerk over there.
That is kind of the reason we started this recording late. Is I was at work. I usually leave at 7:30 in the morning every day. I left today at 11:15 in the morning. Doing a bunch of stuff over there at Kemp's 5. Thanks for watching.
But to kind of get everything back on track, I mean, it was pretty fun seeing like all these seniors like trying to get one last basically hurrah that kind of impress the scouts and all that stuff. But I think the one person that I think that legitimately like might have a shot was Levi Bell, because he did some like really impressive work. I think, what was it, his bench, he was doing like with 225. I think he did like 33 reps. Yeah.
Pretty good.
And then I think for his for the vertical jump, I think he got like over a 37. Like he had some really impressive, had a really impressive showing that I think a lot of those scouts were like kind of shocked to find someone that was doing all of this. So I think he might have like a legit, and also the kind of, he was also one of the only Bobcat players to be selected by the USFL. So like if he doesn't get selected, like the Michigan Panthers or the USFL will have his draft rights already like locked up. But from what I was hearing from just kind of the scuttlebutt, they think Levi actually made like a decent enough impression that he might have a shot at like either signing with the team or potentially getting drafted, like kind of in the later rounds. But he was probably the one. Yeah. He was probably the one person that I was actually like surprised, like seeing him compete, because I know y'all showed the videos. Like he has this insane like regimen, and it was interesting when we talked to him. Like apparently he was told to lose weight, and they wanted him to transition from like a linebacker to like a fullback, so he had to gain more weight. So like he was literally puncturing weight, and on top of that, he tore his bicep in December, like a small tear. And so he basically had a rehab, and then the fact that he, like, despite having like a small bicep tear, the fact he did like 33 like reps, to me that was like insane, like to hear about. But
while fluctuating weight too, so he's like managing his own deal. That full interview is on Win Now or Get Bent, episode 87. It's like right at the end. And it's Colton and Kef going back with Levi. It's super interesting, honestly, to hear him kind of speak on all that stuff. Levi Bell is also just a super interesting character, tremendous football guy, energy. And me and Zimmel had an episode just talking about him and his physique leading up to Pro Day, really. That's what it ended up happening. It was right after the USFL draft. So, yeah, crazy stuff.
We'll get one more question for you on football. The number one thing that drove me insane in the Withers era and then into the Spavital era was the year zero. Colton, can we get you to sign the pledge that you will not use the phrase year zero?
This is not as much as I was like, I don't think this is a year zero type situation. Like kind of what a lot of podcasts are talking, like, I don't think it is possible. I think it would be a very rare exception to have like a year zero type situation. And I don't think this is a year zero situation. No. If someone's saying like, oh, this is a year, like, no. Like
we got Colton to sign the pledge. Thank you, Colton.
This is year 2023. What are you talking about? Get your head out of your ass.
Colton, but Jacob, you know what I'm talking about. Colton, you know what I'm talking about. When it's like, I understand where fans are coming from with it. And after we did like a 20-minute segment on, Texas State, are they good or are they not? I could understand how somebody would say like, oh, this is year zero. But we here at Squaring Around say, unless you're doing the job for free, it's not as year zero. The check's clear. It's year one, counts. So I'm glad that's what I wanted to kind of wrap up the football talk on here, or like the Keeney era football talk here, because we got more. We got have we heard what you have to say about Bailiff coming back?
Yeah, like I interviewed him. I guess it was like after we did the press conference with Coach Kenny, I sat down and I talked to Coach Bailiff, and that was a really fun interview. Like you could tell, like he is so happy to be back in San Marcos. Like he basically said, I started my career here. I'm going to finish it here in San Marcos. And like his, like basically his role.
He doesn't look that old, Colton.
No, he's getting up there in age. Like I forgot. I don't even
hope he's okay.
No, he's perfectly okay and all that stuff. But I think he's
ominous.
But I think he's just kind of content, like just being back in San Marcos because of
64, according to Google. 64.
64 is a new 44. He's a young man.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, it's not geriatric or anything, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like when he's like, "This is my last. I want to end my career here." I'm like, "Okay, what are you working for? Retirement age?"
I will say that did catch me a little bit off guard when he said that. I was like, "Oh no!"
But you retired at 65.
Yeah. But I think, like his role, like it's not, I would say like it's more like he's trying to build that, he's like what Coach Kenny's doing. He's trying to build that juice back up with the program. Like he's going out to a lot of these alumni, like all these like alumni who like fed up with like the team losing. And he's going out there just being like, hey guys, like, I promise you, like, I'm pretty sure like this, like us losing is going to be over. And he's going out there and it's so cool. Like when he tells it, like a lot of these businesses in San Marcos are like, we are going to be ride and die with you, Coach Bailiff. Like that's been what a lot, like and I think that's what this team, like the program needs. Is like they need something to like kind of get the juice going. But at the same time, I can see it on your face. Like at the same time, the team needs to prove like this product is worth watching.
100% cap. We're ride or die with you, Coach. It's like, wait, if we go 0-3, let's come back, circle back around. Yeah. Let's see what we're get the feel. Okay.
But I guess like kind of like when the baseball team first started in the year, like if you give the alumni base and the fans a reason to come, like they're going to show up. Like like I said, it was like almost over 2,500 for the season opening for the season opener for baseball. Like you got to give these like fans and alumni something that like give a shit about. Like I don't know, like it shouldn't be that hard, but like as we were kind of going back, like when the team has been like in this malaise for like so long, like yeah, like you're going to burn your bridges. But like I think that's why it was important for Coach Kenny to realize, like, yeah, I think we need Coach Bailiff back now that he's available. Like we need to start rebuilding these bridges, but at the same time, like we need to put a product on the field that everyone can like not like put your paper bag over your face and be like, oh yeah.
I think that's the most important thing, because none of us were here when Bailiff was coaching.
No.
You probably care the most, Colton, honestly, because you're just a history guy. Like, you know, you're somebody who cares a lot about the program's history. So when you see that headline, you're like, this is great.
Yeah.
But like me, and I would say 75% of the student fan base probably, because 25% are already, what's the time? It's 6:00. They already have like 3 drinks in them. 75% of the fan base is like, okay, cool. We have a former coach that's on the staff. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of how it is. Yeah.
And I think that was the one thing that kind of stuck out when, like, because we asked Coach Kenny about Coach Bailiff and all of that stuff, and it was the part that's like, we need winners in here, like, and Coach Bailiff, and like Coach Bailiff. Nah, go ahead, Zimmel.
I said, does he count? You count that guy as a winner?
I mean, he had 2 10-win seasons at Rice.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
At all the, like, and out of all the football programs, like he had 2 10-win seasons at Rice and a conference championship, and like Rice is like one of the most difficult jobs. Like I
think they're the only team that's worse attendance than Texas State over the last like 5 years.
And also, like, he's the only one that, like, has the share. Like, he won the Southland title, like, the first conference championship since the glory days of, like, the Loans, like, when they were back in Division II. Like, the guy has proven, like, he can win, like, anywhere. Like, I think I did the research. He's one of only 4 coaches that's taken a team to the Division II playoffs, FCS playoffs, and taken a team to a bowl game. Like, one of 4. Yeah.
Well, F me, man. Good for you. Good. Read me for right, dude. Read me to filth. No, okay. I know. Shout out to me. I just was thinking, you know, all right. But he was a 7-win guy. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so 10 wins at Rice, winning a conference. Shout out to him, man. Good for him.
But I think that's what is important. I think he's there to, like, show, like, I think he's kind of like the representation of, like, yes, I'm part of that era that, you know, he played on those conference championship winning teams under Coach Jim Wacker and Bill Miller. You know, he was also the defensive coordinator. You know, he was, you know, Gary Patterson's defensive coordinator when he first took over at TCU. Like, he's just that representation of, like, Texas State is good and, like, it can be good, but like I said, we're going to get the football team, like, ready to go, but like but we need y'all support. And I think that's what he's doing. It's not only getting support from the alumni basis, but also going out to the high school coaches, like, as what they've been doing since Kenny's been taken over. Like, we're rebuilding that high school football connection. It's not only in San Marcos, but like going in Dallas, going in San Antonio, going in Houston, not just sending like an email or like a phone call, like actually being there in person. It's like, hey, this is what we're building and we want your support. And I think that goes a long way than just sending like a text message like, oh, hey, we're building something here. Like, no, someone going in person saying like, hey, this is what we're going to do and we need your back.
I think that money talks, bullshit walks attitude too has honestly even paid dividends right now. We're talking about that $4 million donation that the athletics department got recently. I mean, you said like give people things to cheer about. Baseball obviously had a huge turnout at their leadoff dinner. People have been showing up in support, obviously, this whole time, too. I think this is going to be a big-time spring game. A lot of people are going to be excited to see this team in person. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see kind of like what goes down with that, too. And this past weekend, Colton, you and everybody there in San Marcos got a chance to see this team live and in person at Junior Day. for the first time to see that. And we were talking about this too last week on the Republic of Football podcast. But that divisible responsibility that bailiff now has, it's kind of like some weight is lifted off of DJ Kinney's shoulders. He was able to just focus on coaching, and bailiff was kind of, kissing babies and shaking hands and stuff on the sidelines. Can you talk a little bit about that, or what were your overall impressions really on junior day too?
I mean, like, Coach Kinney is an X's and O's guy. Like, he wants to worry about the football team and nothing else. And I think that's when we talk about CEO that's what he exemplifies. Like, he's basically like, hey, we're all in this together, but like everyone's got a job that they have to meet. Like Coach Baylor, like, is going to be doing this. Coach Mack, like, I want you to focus on this. Like, it's not like kind of what, like how last year, like Spavital was just doing everything. And like, we're all human beings. Like, you can't just be the one that's doing all of this unless you're like a Steve Sarkisian or Nick Saban, because that's what you got to do. But like being that CEO, like, I think, like I said, it lifts the weight. Like no, it's not on everybody. It's evenly spread out, but everybody is answering under one person. That is DJ Kinney. And I think that will pay dividends. And also, like, I hate to say it, it feels so refreshing to see like so many high school players like out in San Marcos, being at Texas State, like interacting with like the media, like talking to coaches, like seeing like what Kinney is selling, what Coach Bailiff is trying to sell to everybody. It is so refreshing.
Are you being nice to him, Colton?
Wait, Colton. Before Zimmel tries to take this away from us, can you correct me if I'm wrong? There was over 200 recruits at junior day, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty good chunk. Like a lot of those juniors now about to be seniors coming out to Texas State. Like, I even saw like my former Wembley quarterback Cash McCullum, like he was there. Like, and I didn't think he was going to like the fact that he was interested in like going to Texas State and all that. So at least giving him a talk and an offer. Like it was like, okay, I think like they are firmly like reestablishing themselves. Like, hey, like, UTSA is cool and all, but like we can do the exact same thing. And like I said, it is so refreshing to see like so many high school players and so many high school coaches come out and be like, oh, this is really great to see.
If you're into vintage wear and stuff, I equate it to kind of like a pop-up event. You got this brand that's kind of establishing things, and you have a pop-up event, on South Congress or whatever in Austin, and all of a sudden you got rappers and stuff wearing your streetwear. It's basically like that. I mean, Texas State had to do something, and they're sandwiched between two huge media markets, right? San Antonio and Austin. Texas State in the middle. Didn't really give a whole lot to look for. They have this huge event now suddenly in the spring. And, well, yeah, obviously a quarterback that's not getting like a ton of like D1 like offers stuff is going to look at Texas State a little bit more if they think they can make an instant impact, I think.
Yeah, to use Cash as my example, like I think when he started getting offers, it was something what the Spavital era would do, just like, oh, we'll not offer you like a PWO, like, but we won't offer you a full scholarship. Like, we'll focus on the transfer portal or like the junior college route. Just being like, okay, we're going to focus on that, and then we'll just.
Question.
Okay.
Has anybody ever been offered a scholarship somewhere and a preferred walk-on to Texas State and took Texas State? I'm putting that out there. That to me would be such a slap in the face if I was a player. Like, oh, we can give you a preferred walk-on versus like getting a scholarship from Sam Houston or somewhere else. I would have been, nobody would go. Nobody would take that. So, okay, I wanted to ask that question.
Yeah.
And then if, we were talking about supporting this team, we're talking about things to look forward to and stuff like that. Barrick Neely shirts from Coach Frank, who's a Texas State great in his own right. Now the running backs coach at actually, and this is a fun tie-in for us on a personal level. Coach Terrence Franks, the running back coach at West Columbia High School, the home of Tristan Giese. Friend of the podcast, who you heard from in our Hotline Square. Pretty good. But he's making those vintage Barrick Neely shirts. He's got a whole deal on it. I'll link his stuff in this episode too. Very cool to look forward to. In some sad news on the football front, former Texas State wide receiver, now at Arizona, Jaden Mitchell, says he's done with football. He made the announcement this past week. Sad. He said over the past years he's battled, major knee injuries, 3 major knee injuries. So he's just kind of done with the sport, done with taking at least that impact on it. So shout out Jaden Mitchell. Appreciate your decision. I'm glad that we had all of that stuff front loaded, because now I want to talk about baseball and softball. Both have been kind of ebbing and flowing. Let's start with baseball. They get skunked out at Coastal Carolina. Not fun to watch. I think I watched like the first 4 innings on Friday last week. And that's when they gave up 8, and then they pulled Levi in the top of the second. So tough look for that team. Coastal's a great team, though. Zimmel was kind of hinting at this the entire time.
I've been telling everybody that would listen that Coastal Carolina's a damn good baseball team.
They're amazing.
Coastal Carolina and App State. Those are the 2 teams you need to watch out for every single year. Doesn't matter what. We'll start. I mean, you can go any different which ways. I'll start here, Colton, and we'll group it into one. What's more disappointing, softball or baseball so far over the past week?
I don't know. Like,
I got my answer. You want to hear it?
Okay,
Softball.
Softball?
How are you 20-13? Like at this point, like you're 20-13, and Jessica McMullins has one of the best seasons of her career so far. Like a .98 ERA. I looked it up last year at this time. She was, I want to say 10-7, and now she's 12-2. Like, this is like, she's doing crazy stuff. She's kicking ass, and we can't score some runs. We can't win some games for her. Like, we talked in the preseason about we need to find the second pitcher. Conference plays here, ladies and gentlemen, and we don't have that second pitcher. We're still trying to figure it out. I'm disappointed in where softball is right now. Now, there's a lot of time left, but I'm disappointed. Like today, you asked me, I think it's softball, Colton.
I think I could see like softball being the more disappointing team, but I think it's also like if you look at the Sun Belt like softball, like just looking at softball like in the Sun Belt, like this league is stacked. Like I couldn't believe because I saw like the RPI is like there's 8 teams in the top 100. I was like, what the hell?
That's just bad pitching though. Like, okay, yeah, kids can hit, but like the pitching has been tough across the board for these other teams, except us, who holds these teams down and can't score runs.
Well, I want to say too, softball right now 1-4 in conference play. That's the bigger red flag alert. But the Sun Belt very good at softball, as Colton was saying.
Yeah, like I think it's more like I think I just want to see the Texas State offense, because I've seen like sparks of the Torrey McCann and Carson Pierce. I've seen like I've seen flashes of like they could be great. Like I went to going to those all those tournaments that I was going to, like they were putting in some work. Like, Torrey McCann was putting in the work. Carson Pierce was putting in the work. I think you're just getting into like the rough of like this like Sun Belt Conference, and I think it's just like I said.
Not even April. Maybe I'm overreacting.
See, I kind of like I could see someone like being like when you see like when you start like when you lose your first 2 conference like games, like it's like okay, like I think the warning, like yeah, I think you would be reasonable to put the warning flags up, but I also think like this is exactly going to turn out like how women's basketball did, because you just got like 8 heavyweights like in the middle, and they're basically punching the piss out of each other until one person's going to be like left standing, like. And I hope like the NCAA tournament does it right, but like I think this is going to be like a multiple bid like league, 3 maybe 4. But like what Texas State needs to do, like I think you just have to survive at this moment, because like I don't think there's going to be like an easy day off. Like you just got to like get through the grind, because like Troy's no slob, and South Alabama isn't a slob either, because those were the 2 teams like that were in like the top 100 in RPI. So like. It's going to be just like it's just going to be a grind, and like they're just games like you're just going to lose, like you're going to end up losing. And I think you just got to power through, because like it's going to be, because I think we're just like we are early in the conference season. And I think Texas State does need to, because it was their last game against South Alabama. I think they had like 6 errors, and I'm sorry, like you can't be committing 6 errors like in a game, like they're against team, like as we were saying, like when you having such a top heavy like conference, like you can't commit 6 errors and expect like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to win this game. Like, no.
So, all right, let's do it this way again. Yeah. Set it up. Baseball, softball, pitching. Because Texas State baseball, we knew coming in that the pitching was going to be kind of question marky. Jacob, question marks around the pitching, would you say?
Or Trout, but I think a lot of us were like, well, yeah, how can you not? You take away all your returning staff and then, kind of figure out what you do.
A head coach is never going to tell us the truth when it comes to pitching. That's what I'm at right now with it. Like,
I believe #believe Trout.
That's not a knock on them. That's their job. They're going to tell us that everything is fine. Softball, concerned because they don't have that second pitcher. We joked about it, Jacob. We were like, hey, we got people in the bullpen. How's it out looking? And Woodard told us she might have 2 aces. And it looks like not an ace, maybe a 2. You know what I mean?
Maybe a 2.
Yeah, maybe a 3 of clubs.
I think, well, with softball, I think, obviously your number 1 pitcher is going to be Jessica Mullins. Like, no doubt. I think right now your 2 is Tori McCann. Like, is she going to be like as great as Jessica Mullins? Like, no, like, because like Jessica Mullins only comes around like once every blue moon. But
once every 4 years.
Yeah, once every 4 years, like as y'all were saying. But I think Tori McCann can like she's done great stuff. Like I've seen it.
Great stuff, Colton.
How do I rephrase this? She can hold it down. That's what, because I've seen her pitch a complete game shutout. I've seen her do a lot of good stuff. That's fair.
I'm not going to dump on a 20-year-old. I'm not going to do that. However, when the expectation was to have two aces, 2 starters. I don't think that's what we have. I think that we have 1 starter and we have 1 pitcher that, God forbid, something happens. Because if Jessica sprains her wrist tomorrow, how many games do we win of 10? Like if Jessica can't pitch in 10 games or 5 games, 0-5, 1-4, like that to me is a concern. Like that's kind of what my concern level is at. Is that like if all of the eggs are in one basket and that basket has like breaks, we're effed. You know what I mean? And like that to me is the problem right now. Is that I think Jessica is incredible. I think that she has a really good shot to win Player of the Year as a junior. What do you do with that, Colton?
Well, like I said, I think
just hope she doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, you can possibly, yeah, but like I said, I don't know like how much you can, because like if you're against South Alabama, like how much are you helping your pitching staff if you have 6 errors in a game? Like they gave up like 4 unearned runs in that game, where like that game could have been like a 3-0 game instead of like a 7-0 game. And also like the hit, like that Texas State offense, like they need to get some hit. Like they need to get that offensive churning, because they only got 2 hits against South Alabama. And like I think across the board, like kind of what Coach Woodard was saying, it's like I think like the competition is here, guys. Like we need to take it to the next level, because we can't be stagnant right now. We need to like elevate our game, because like nobody else is going to be like, the competition is rising up and we need to be at that competition level.
Let's wrap up baseball and softball talk with the Chanticleers, who kicked our ass. And they did exactly everything that Texas State was doing a month ago or 2 weeks ago. That was like slam Marcus.
Yeah.
Coastal did the exact same thing to Texas State. You don't want to do panic level before April even rolls around here, but you're playing a lot of conference games now. We're getting into the crunch time. Like, at what point do you say like, uh-oh, or do you say, oh, now?
I need 1 more series, because you got to remember they also beat Southern Miss. Like they won the series against Southern Miss. Like unlike the softball team, like Texas State, like at least the baseball team has a series like win over a conference opponent.
Ranked. Southern Miss, I should add, and they also beat TCU. And so they've done a lot of things that kind of everybody was like,
it's just the past week, I guess, that they've been kind of.
Yeah.
Well, also I was listening to the broadcast. Obviously, the announcers were saying 75% of the time when Coastal has a big inning, they will win the game. That third game, it was a doubleheader on Saturday. Didn't realize that until it was too late. But they had a doubleheader on Saturday, and Texas State was up. Really good, looking really good early. It looked like they were going to avoid the sweep. It didn't ultimately end up happening. But Coastal, Jesus, I don't know what's in the water over there. Zimmel says it's the best college town in America.
I love Myrtle Beach,
South Carolina, whatever.
You know what? I'll tell you what, Mr. South Padre Island boy, you go out to Myrtle Beach. Texas. Total different vibe. Total different vibe. The Atlantic Ocean will clean your soul.
It's like a saline rinse for your personality and your soul.
Mm-hmm. That's why those boys out there got mullets and drink moonshine. It's because they can. You go in the ocean and just clean it all off. It's
cool that identity exists when like Chapel Hill is also in that same state, like, or not same state, but same area. Right? Like it's totally different.
Yeah. Okay. Take a shot at the Chapel Hill folks.
Well, dude, I know a guy, my former boss, actually, Wes Wilson from UNC grad. But yeah, different guy than the folks I know exist in Coastal.
Colton, you fit in Coastal.
You think I would fit in Coastal?
I think so. You cut the sides, leave the back long, just go right in.
A lot of Luke Combs at Coastal Carolina.
A lot of Luke Combs.
Even though he's an App State attendee, not grad.
Yeah.
Also, the baseball team on their way back met the world's strongest man, Mark Henry. What a beast. But I was talking to a few people. You meet Mark Henry at the airport. He's like, oh my God, y'all are a baseball team? How'd y'all do? And then you got to explain to the world's strongest man that you just got your ass kicked for 3 games straight. Not a great look.
You lie.
What was it?
I have a Mark Henry story. Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear Mark Henry's story?
Yeah.
Colton, do you want to hear Mark Henry's story?
Obviously, yeah.
So when I was working in Austin, I was doing like the morning production, and he had his wrestling show out of the same area, right? Like we were across the hall, and he brought me donuts. But the thing is, okay, he brought donuts for the show, not just me. But he brought donuts for like the morning show. Thing is that they needed somebody to text him their donut order. So I did. So I have Mark Henry's phone number.
No way. Let's get him on the pod.
So, clearly I don't use it. I think I texted him happy birthday once, but
he was like, new number, who this?
It was a cool experience.
Dial in, Hotline Square, Mark Henry.
Guy's huge. Guy's a big Colton, big man.
Yeah. He's one of them dudes. Like, I think
man told him, don't come back to wrestling if you're not the world's strongest man, because we can't have the world's second strongest man. And then he was that guy.
That's Colton. Swear to God, you'll hear it when we log off today. That's what Jacob tells me every week. He goes, keep those hot takes coming because we can't have the second hottest take. Gotta have the hottest take.
Well, that's why it bothers me so much that Texas State was like, okay, apparently, obviously, but also apparently that with mediocrity this whole time. It's like, what do you mean? Coach Strand has this great quote that says, a Bobcat will claw and fight their way. It's a great quote. I'll put it up on here and superimpose it. But it's a great like Bobcat quote. Like, this is what we're about. This is what fight, finish, all this stuff. Didn't see a lot of that. So looking for that, actually.
Here you go. Same quote. Put it up on the board here. Mm-hmm. Jerry Fields, former booster of Texas State, said, think small, be small, act small, be Texas State, when Texas State hired Everett Withers.
Jerry Fields thinking big picture, market, media, money strategy. Jacob thinking take over the world.
I miss Jerry Fields.
Beast. Squarin Around, episode 17. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Colton.
Thanks for listening. New episodes out every Thursday. Follow the boys on Twitter. Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up.